Bigfoot encounter in the Yukon wilderness. Beast BFRO. Report number 98,765. What if the legends are true? Deep in the unforgiving Yukon wilderness, an encounter so profound, so inexplicable, it challenged everything you thought you knew. Prepare yourself for a gripping tale that will leave you questioning reality long after it ends. This isn't just a story, it's an experience. The air was thin, the silence deafening, and then a sound that froze me to my core. I'd ventured into the Yukon expecting challenges, but nothing could prepare me for what truly lurked in that remote landscape. This is the unvarnished account of my most terrifying and unforgettable experience in the wild. Forget everything you think you know about the Yukon. This isn't your typical wilderness adventure. I went seeking solitude and found something else entirely. Something ancient, powerful, and utterly unexplainable. Are you ready to hear the story that will make you rethink every rustle in the trees? It was late August 2023, and I'd planned a solo trek into the Yukon's Kluane National Park, a place where the mountains loom like silent sentinels, and the forests stretch endlessly, untouched by civilization. I'm no stranger to the wild, years of hiking, camping, and survival training under my belt. But the Yukon is different. It's raw, vast, and humbling. A place where you feel small, like the land itself is watching you. I wanted solitude, a chance to clear my head after a rough year. My pack was heavy with gear, a tent, a stove, a satellite phone, and a .308 rifle for bears. I'd mapped a 10-day loop through the backcountry, starting at the Alsek River trailhead, aiming for a remote valley few ever reach. The plan was simple. Hike, camp, reflect, survive. But the Yukon had other plans. Day 1 was uneventful. I hiked 12 miles, the trail winding through dense spruce and pine, the air sharp with the scent of sap and earth. The only sounds were my boots crunching on gravel, and the occasional cry of a raven. By dusk, I'd set up camp near a small creek, the water gurgling softly as I cooked a quick meal over my stove. The sky was clear, stars piercing through the twilight, and I felt at peace, alone with the wilderness. I crawled into my tent, zipped it tight, and left the rifle by my side, just in case. It was around 2 a.m. when I woke to a sound. A low, rumbling hum, like a distant engine, but organic, alive. It wasn't a bear or a wolf. I'd heard those before. This was deeper, vibrating through the ground, making my chest tighten. I lay still, heart pounding, straining to listen. Silence followed, heavy and oppressive, the kind that makes you hold your breath. Then, a sharp crack, a branch snapping, maybe 50 yards away. My hand found the rifle, fingers trembling as I unzipped the tent flap just enough to peer out. The moonlight cast long shadows, turning trees into twisted shapes. Nothing moved, but the air felt charged, like a storm was brewing. I told myself it was nothing, zipped the tent back up, and tried to sleep, but my gut screamed I wasn't alone. Morning came, gray and cold. I checked the campsite and found a single footprint near the creek, 18 inches long, human-like but wider, with deep impressions of toes that looked almost clawed. No bear track looks like that. I'd read about Bigfoot, laughed at the stories, but standing there, staring at that print, my skepticism cracked. I took photos, noted the GPS coordinates, and moved on, telling myself it was a prank or a trick of the mind. But the unease clung to me like damp clothes. Day 3, deeper into the valley, the terrain grew rougher. Rocky slopes, thick underbrush, and streams swollen from recent rains. I was following an old game trail when I heard it again. That low hum, closer now, coming from the ridge above. I froze, scanning the tree line. A flash of movement, something dark, massive, darting between pines. My heart slammed against my ribs. I raised my rifle, scope trained on the spot, but whatever it was had vanished. Then a smell hit me, musky, wet, like a dog left out in the rain, but sharper, almost rancid. I backed away slowly, eyes darting, every rustle amplifying my fear. I didn't camp there that night. I pushed on, hiking until my legs burned, setting up in a clearing far from the ridge. That night the hum returned, louder, joined by a second, then a third, like a chorus circling my camp. I sat in my tent, rifle across my lap, flashlight sweeping the darkness. Around 3 a.m., something heavy brushed against the tent, dragging along the fabric with a slow, deliberate scrape. I yelled, "Get out of here!" But my voice cracked, betraying my terror. The brushing stopped, replaced by footsteps. Heavy, bipedal, crunching leaves as they circled. I unzipped the flap, flashlight trembling, and caught a glimpse of it. 8 feet tall, maybe more, covered in matted black fur, standing just beyond the clearing. Its eyes glowed red in the beam, not like a deer's reflection, but deeper, intelligent, piercing. It tilted its head, studying me, and let out a scream, a bone-rattling wail that drowned out the creek and sent birds exploding from the trees. I fired a warning shot into the air, the crack echoing, and it bolted, crashing through the brush, with a speed no human could match. The smell lingered, thick and choking. I didn't sleep. At dawn, I found more tracks, dozens circling my camp, some fresh, others smeared like they'd been there hours. A tree nearby had claw marks, 10 feet up, deep gouges no bear could make. My satellite phone was useless. The battery had drained overnight, though I'd charged it fully. Panic set in. I was dazed from the trailhead, alone, and something was watching me. Day 5, I decided to cut the trip short. The valley felt alive, hostile. Every shadow seemed to move. Every snap of a twig sent my pulse racing. I hiked fast, barely stopping, but the hum followed. Sometimes distant, sometimes so close, I swore it was breathing down my neck. At one point, crossing a stream, I saw it again, on the opposite bank, partially hidden by willows. It was massive, shoulders broader than any man's, arms long and swinging. It didn't approach, but mirrored my path, keeping pace through the trees. Its face was shadowed, but I felt its eyes, unblinking, tracking me. I shouted, waved my rifle, but it didn't flinch. Instead, it let out a low whoop, answered by another from the ridge above. There were more of them. I ran, splashing through the stream, branches tearing at my pack. The whoops grew louder, overlapping, a primal symphony that drowned out my gasping breaths. I stumbled into a clearing, and saw something that stopped me cold. A pile of bones. Elk, deer, maybe bear, stacked neatly, like an offering or a warning. Fresh blood glistened on some, and the musky smell was overwhelming. Tracks surrounded it, larger than before, some with smaller prints alongside, like a family had been there. My mind screamed to leave, but my legs felt like lead. I took a photo, hands shaking, and kept moving, praying I'd reach the trailhead. Night fell before I could escape the valley. I camped in a rocky outcrop, hoping the open ground would keep them at bay. Around midnight, the hum started again, closer than ever, accompanied by rocks clattering down the slope. I shone my flashlight and saw 3 figures at the edge of the clearing, 2 massive, 1 smaller, their silhouettes stark against the moonlit rocks. The largest stepped forward, its fur catching the light, revealing muscles rippling beneath. It didn't charge, but raised a hand, clawed, enormous, and pointed at me. A gesture so human, it chilled me more than the screams. I fired another warning shot, and they melted into the darkness, but the hum lingered until dawn. The final days blurred into a haze of fear and exhaustion. I hiked 20 miles a day, barely eating, jumping at every sound. The whoops were sometimes faint, sometimes close, always reminding me I wasn't alone. On day 8, I reached the trailhead, my truck a beacon of safety. As I threw my pack in, a final whoop echoed from the forest, long and mournful, like a goodbye, or a warning not to return. I drove straight to Whitehorse, filed a report with the BFRO, and sent them my photos. The tracks, the bones, the claw marks. They called it a Class A sighting, one of the most detailed from the Yukon. I'm back home now, but the Yukon changed me. I don't hike alone anymore. The wilderness feels alive, watching, waiting. Those eyes, that gesture, the intelligence behind it, they haunt me. I've faced grizzlies, storms, and avalanches, but nothing compares to the primal terror of knowing something ancient, powerful, and aware was tracking me. What were they? Guardians of the wild? A family protecting their territory? Or something older? Something we've forgotten but they haven't. I don't know, and that's the worst part. The Yukon keeps its secrets, and I'm not going back to find them.
What if the legends aren't just campfire tales? In the desolate Yukon wilderness near Haines Junction, I faced something so terrifying, so inexplicable, it shattered my understanding of the world. This isn't just a story, it's a descent into fear that will leave you questioning every shadow in the trees. Prepare for a tale that grips your soul and doesn't let go. The air was sharp, the silence suffocating, and then, a sound that stopped my heart. I'd come to the Yukon seeking fortune in its untamed rivers, but nothing could have prepared me for the primal force lurking in those frozen wilds. This is my raw, unfiltered account of the most horrifying experience of my life. Forget what you think you know about the Yukon. This isn't a prospector's dream of gold, it's a nightmare of something ancient, watchful, and relentless. I went looking for wealth and found a mystery that makes every creek in the forest feel like a threat. Are you ready to hear what haunts me still? It was early September 2024, and I'd set out alone to prospect along the Dezidish River, a remote stretch near Haines Junction in the Yukon. I'm a third-generation prospector, raised on stories of gold nuggets and rugged survival. The Yukon's harsh, jagged peaks, icy streams, and forests so dense they swallow sound, but I was ready. My pack held a sluice box, pans, a tent, and a .44 Magnum revolver for protection against bears. I'd planned a 2-week trip, following an old miner's map to a bend in the river rumored to hold placer gold. The trailhead was a gravel lot off the Alaska Highway, and from there, I hiked into a world where humans are just visitors. Day 1 felt like a dream. The river sparkled under a pale sun, and I spent hours panning, finding flecks of gold dust that kept my spirits high. I set up camp on a gravel bar, the river's murmur a steady companion. My tent was sturdy, my fire crackling, and the revolver rested by my sleeping bag. The Yukon's quiet is profound, but that night, it turned eerie. Around 1 a.m., I woke to a low, throbbing hum, like a diesel engine but alive, pulsing through the ground. I sat up, ears straining. A twig snapped nearby, sharp and deliberate. My hand found the revolver, and I unzipped the tent flap, peering into the moonlight. Shadows danced in the spruce trees, but nothing moved. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath. I zipped up and lay awake, telling myself it was a moose or wind, but my gut knew better. Morning revealed something unsettling. A single footprint on the riverbank, 17 inches long, human-like but broader, with deep toe impressions that curled like claws. No bear track looks like that. I'd scoffed at Bigfoot tales over beers in Whitehorse, but that print sent a chill down my spine. I snapped photos, marked the spot on my GPS, and pushed on, blaming my nerves on isolation. The gold was calling, and I wasn't about to turn back. By day 4, I'd reached a narrow valley where the river cut through steep, forested slopes. The map promised rich deposits here, and I spent the day sluicing, pulling small nuggets that made my heart race. But the forest felt wrong. Birds stopped singing. The air grew thick with that musky, wet dog smell I'd read about in Bigfoot forums. Late afternoon, as I knelt by the river, a rock splashed into the water 30 yards upstream, too heavy to be accidental. I stood, scanning the tree line. A shadow moved, tall, dark, slipping behind a cedar. My revolver was out, but my hands shook. "Who's there?" I shouted, voice echoing. No answer, just another rock, closer this time, splashing hard enough to wet my boots. I backed toward my gear, eyes locked on the trees, and caught a glimpse. A figure, over 8 feet, broad as a barrel, with shaggy black fur. It stood upright, watching me, its eyes glinting in the fading light. I froze, heart hammering. It didn't move, just stared, its chest rising and falling. Then it let out a low whoop, deep and resonant, answered by another from the opposite ridge. There were at least 2. I grabbed my pack and retreated to camp, a half-mile downriver, checking over my shoulder every step. That night, I built a big fire, hoping to keep whatever it was at bay. Around midnight, the hum returned, louder, joined by footsteps, heavy, bipedal, circling just beyond the firelight. I gripped the revolver, flashlight sweeping the darkness. The beam caught something. Red eyes, glowing like embers, 20 yards away. They blinked, then vanished as a scream tore through the night, a wail so loud it rattled my teeth and sent sparks flying from the fire. I fired a shot into the air, the boom echoing, and the footsteps retreated, crashing through the brush. Dawn showed tracks everywhere, dozens, circling my camp, some massive, others smaller, like a group had been there. A pine tree had fresh gouges, 9 feet up, deep and jagged. My satellite phone, fully charged the day before, was dead. Panic clawed at me. I was days from the trailhead, low on food, and something was stalking me. I packed light, leaving the sluice behind, and started hiking out, gold be damned. The hum followed, sometimes faint, sometimes so close I felt it in my bones. By day 6, crossing a rocky scree field, I saw it again, on a ridge above, silhouetted against the sky. It was enormous, maybe 9 feet, with arms that hung past its knees. It moved parallel to me, keeping pace, never closing the distance but never letting me out of sight. Its face was shadowed, but I felt its gaze, heavy and deliberate, like it was studying me. I shouted, waved the revolver, but it didn't flinch. Another whoop came from below, and I realized I was being herded, flanked by unseen others. My legs burned as I pushed harder, stumbling over rocks. Near dusk, I reached a clearing and stopped dead. A pile of bones, moose, caribou, maybe wolf, stacked neatly in the center, blood still wet on the skulls. Tracks surrounded it, some with claw marks pressed into the dirt. The musky smell choked me, and I gagged, backing away. This wasn't a kill site, it was a message. I took a shaky photo and ran, the whoops echoing behind me, growing louder, closer. Night 7, I camped in a boulder field, hoping the rocks would shield me. Around 2 a.m., the hum started again, joined by rocks clattering nearby. I shone my flashlight and saw them, 4 figures at the edge of the field, 3 massive, 1 smaller, their fur catching the moonlight. The largest stepped forward, its eyes locked on mine, and raised a clawed hand, pointing directly at me. The gesture was human, deliberate, and it froze my blood. I fired another warning shot, and they vanished into the shadows, but the hum lingered, vibrating through the rocks. I sat there, rifle in hand, until the sky lightened, every sound a threat. The last days were a blur of fear and exhaustion. I hiked 18 hours straight, eating only protein bars, jumping at every rustle. The whoops followed, sometimes mocking, sometimes mournful, always reminding me I was on their land. On day 10, I stumbled into the trailhead, my truck a lifeline. As I threw my pack in, a final whoop rang out, long and deep, shaking the trees. I drove to Haines Junction, filed a report with the BFRO, and sent them my photos, the tracks, the bones, the gouged tree. They called it a Class A sighting, one of the most intense from the region. I'm home now, but the Yukon broke something in me. I sold my prospecting gear. The gold isn't worth it. Those eyes, that pointing hand, the intelligence behind it, they haunt my dreams. I've faced blizzards, bears, and river rapids, but nothing compares to the terror of being watched, hunted, by something that knows you're there. Were they protecting their territory? Warning me off? Or something older, something we've forgotten but they remember? I'll never know, and that's what keeps me awake. The Yukon belongs to them, and I'm never going back. If this chilling tale of the Yukon Bigfoot sent shivers down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe for more real encounters that'll keep you up at night. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever felt watched in the wild?